My name is Jeff McLaughlin. This broadcast, thanks, Drew Purdy, you punk. Yeah, you're such a bro. Is that bromance? Is that what that is, bromance? Okay, so we started out last week talking about, it was part one of the 4 pillars of the Christian music artist. The 4 pillars are, number 1, the first pillar is product. The second pillar is distribution. The third pillar is marketing and promotion. And the fourth pillar is getting shows. Okay? We're still talking about the first pillar. This is the second series in this video. We're talking about the first pillar still, which is product. There's specifically 2 different things. You know, the artists themselves is the product. So there's 2 things that are very important that I'm going to talk about tonight. One is the business setup or the legal setup. And then the second thing is fundraising or sponsorships. Getting funds so that you can do everything you need to do. This is very, very important. And I want to talk about this early on. And it's important that we talk about this now so that you can start working on this with your accountants and your legal advisors, your attorneys and so forth. So, you know, first of all, stage name versus a PKA versus, you know, or a legal name. You know, you have your name you're born with. If you're a female and you get married or whatever, then it's going to be, you know, your legal name is going to change, whatever you have on your driver's license. But your PKA is what you're professionally known as. You know, that could be like, for instance, Twyla Paris. A lot of people think that that's a stage name, that that's not her real name. She was born with that name. That really is her legal name, but it's also what she's known as. Then she got married to a guy by the name of Jack Wright. She became Twyla Wright, but her name, still on the stage, she still goes by Twyla Paris because that's her PKA, what she's professionally known as. Okay? So a lot of people don't realize that Meredith Kinley is not her real name. That's not her legal name. It is the name that it is her stage name. It's what she's professionally known as. But I won't. A lot of you probably already know what her last name is. Those of you that are close friends with her or whatever. But I won't disclose that here, just because, you know, keeping that anonymous, keeping that anonymity. Is that the word? Anonymity. Everything. Okay, so that's the difference between a legal name and a PKA. Is you're professionally known as. If you're a band, obviously you want to register your name and make sure that you're able to keep that name also. And that is something you want to talk to your accountant about, and you want to talk to your legal advisor or your attorney about, is making sure you register your name so that it's legal and so that there is no issues down the road with another band having the same name and everything. Very important. Now let's talk about business setup. Okay, business type. Of course, the ultimate would be a nonprofit organization, also known as a 501c3 here in the U.S. 501c3 is a nonprofit organization. That would be the ultimate way to do that, but unfortunately it's kind of tough to get a nonprofit set up. So one way that you can do that, you know, if you're just a sole proprietor, or these are for-profit, would be a sub-S corporation or an LLC, limited liability corporation. What you want to do is you want to go to your accountant and your attorney, and you want to talk to them about the different types of business types that there are and what would work best for your situation. Okay? McLaughlin Music Group happens to be a sub-S corporation. I had the cool benefit of working with some attorneys and also some accounting advisors out of the University of Arkansas for a while before I went full-time into the Christian music industry and Christian music business. And so I had I was able to speak with them and find out the best type of legal setup for me and business type for me. So that's why we're set up as a sub-S corporation. I see a lot of LLCs too and everything for bands. You know, if you're not a nonprofit, you know, fundraising is not as easy, but there are ways to get around that. So let's talk a little bit about. Anyway, just to get past this, talk to your accountant, talk to your legal advisor, and make sure that you are set up legally. Okay. If you're set up as a sole proprietor and you got a lot of money coming in for ministry purposes, you're going to have to pay taxes on that. And so you want to find out ways to get incorporated and to shield yourself from that. Okay. And I'm not against paying taxes. Believe me, I'm not against paying taxes. Okay. But you want to be set up legally to where you're able to do it properly. Okay, now let's get into the thing that everybody wants to know about: how to get funds, how to bring money in so that you can pay for your recordings, so that you can pay for your photo shoots, so that you can pay for all this other stuff. Okay, lots of important things with corporate funding and corporate sponsors. Okay, we talked a little bit last week about the crowdfunding thing, and the crowdfunding thing works great if you have 1,000 fans, and I'm talking about raving fans. I'm not talking about 1,000 casual followers on Twitter or Facebook or anything like that. They have to be raving fans to really be able to do well on crowdfunding. If you don't have that, it's going to be tough to raise a lot of funds. I talked a little bit about last week about, and I'm talking fast, I know, sorry Tammy, but I've got to get through this information. I'm going to try to be done in under 30 minutes this time. So, I talked about Meredith Kinley. She had to do her 5-song EP. She did a music video. She went on tour in February with Jason Crabb, and then she went on tour in March with Seventh Time Down and Cutlass and Natasha Owens. Those kinds of tours are not cheap. You have to do buy-ins and things like that. And hey, Erskine. Right man said hello. So anyway, to do stuff like that is not cheap. She was out over $30,000 just in those few months alone. So that's a lot for an artist, and so it's a lot for any artist to do those kinds of things. So the best thing, and I want you to know too that not one dime of that. Over 30 grand, not one dime came out of her pocket. Okay? And that's hard to imagine. And also, I want to say that she did not do a crowdfunding campaign. She did not get on Kickstarter. She did not get on Indiegogo. She did not get on GoFundMe. She didn't do any of those crowdfunding platforms to raise the funds. So how did she do it? Through corporate sponsorships. First of all, if you can figure out a way to make the money that comes, in tax deductible for the sponsors, for the people that are giving you money, then you're going to gain a lot more money. You're going to gain a lot more funds if you do it that way. So, just as an example, so what she did, she went out to businesses and let them know, tax deductible. How were they able to give tax deductible? She said that it was going to be for travel expense, for buy-ins, for doing tours with major artists, those kinds of things. Over $30,000 worth, and she raised every dime of it. And through corporate funding, through corporations. So the way that they made it, there's two ways that you can make this tax deductible for the corporations. One, first of all, she is set up as a sub-ministry at her church. And the way that is done, and this is not for everybody. Not everybody can do this, and I'll tell you of another way that can be done without doing this. But some people are close enough with their church that, when you think about it, when you're a Christian music artist, you are a missionary that's using music as your gift to get out there and to do your thing, So to bring people to Christ through music. And so we can talk a lot about that. But anyway, the way that you raise the funds through corporate is if you do a sub-ministry, basically what the church is doing is they're creating an account, just like they were giving money for a missionary, and they were bringing money in, to the church. The money's written out to the church. which makes it tax deductible for the people that gives it, and then they give it to that missionary for that particular thing, you know. So this can be done legally for a Christian music artist as well, and it's done all the time. I know there are organizations out there that do a similar thing, but they're going to take 10% out, you know, for administrative fees and things like that. But you know, you can do it if you do it through your church. You know, there's not, you can donate 10% back into the church if you want for admin fees and things like that, but most of them won't require that you do that. Now, the way that you do it, if you don't want to go that route, and if you, let's say you don't have a nonprofit organization behind you, so what you want to do is you tell them that you want to do it as a sponsorship, and you give them a sponsorship level. You'll have bronze, and you'll have gold, and you'll have silver, and you have different levels like that they can pick. One might be $500, one might be $1,000, one might be $3,000, one might be $5,000. So you pick the different levels of sponsorships, and then regardless of, depending on what level they come in at, they'll get different things, different benefits for doing that. So you may have a plaque that you display on your record table when you go out on your merch table that says, here's our sponsors, and it has the name of the business underneath that on the plaque. Well, that's like advertising for the sponsors, so they can deduct this as an advertising expense, and it's a legitimate advertising expense because they're since they're a sponsor, they're showing their name for this. The artist can also, for one of the levels, may be able to put, have a sponsorship page, or they might not even put it right on the front page, but you can list the sponsors, list the name of the company, put their link to their website, the corporate website or the company website. So again, it's a way to help that corporation to become more known, become more visible. So that's advertising for them. Again, you might have a T-shirt. You can go out and print. We talked last week about if you want to have T-shirts printed up, you can do them for less than $6 a piece. Well, what you might do, you might have to pay a little bit more for it this way. But what you can do then is you can print up 100 T-shirts, and you can tell the people, for this level, not only will we do this and this and this, but we'll also put your logo or your name on the back of a T-shirt. On the front of it, it may have your tour logo for whatever the theme of the tour is, but then on the back, you may just have, in black print or white print, depending on what color your shirt is and what print you need. You can list out all of the sponsors. You could even put the levels of sponsorship, and things like that. And so that's a great way, again, to help promote that. Now, what you could do then is let's say you only paid, I don't know, if you paid, $5 a piece for those things, then you can turn around and sell those T-shirts for $5 a piece and get your money back on those. And that way, all the sponsorship money that came in goes right to the bottom line, right to the bottom dollar, and you don't have to worry about, having expense against that amount that's going. So it's a great way to get that taken care of. And yes, Drew mentioned you could put those T-shirts in grab bags also, as part of a tour package and that kind of thing. So that's a great idea. So there's a lot of ways that you can get corporate sponsors on board. Let me tell you this story. One thing that's good with corporate sponsors, it says that, facts tell, but stories sell. So I'm going to tell you a story right now that might help you understand how I use this in a different situation, but how it worked for me. Back in 1998, I got my black belt in karate, in Kempo karate, and I began teaching at the Springdale Youth Center, kids classes. I remember our very first night, we had 17 students, on our very first night. I was very excited about that. But in order to do that, I needed some equipment. I needed some kicking shields. I needed some targets for them to kick and punch, and then I needed mats because the floor that they were allowing me to use was a tile floor, and I needed mats so that these kids wouldn't fall and break their elbows and things like that and sue the youth center for that. So I appealed to all the corporations in the area. I went to them and I said, my name is Jeff McLaughlin. I'm going to be teaching karate that's based on Christian principles, and I went to every business owner that I knew, that I grew up with, or that I knew in my area, and I said, so we have mats that run about $20 to $25 each. If you can buy one mat for 25, and then, or you can buy 10 mats for 250, or you can buy 5 for however many. That was that 125, for that. So we set up different sponsorship levels and told them you can buy this. But what I did is I told them the story. Like, it's important because it's tile floors and these kids are going to be kicking. We don't want them slipping and breaking their elbows or hurting themselves. But yet this is going to be very good for the community, because I'm teaching, number one, I'm teaching them Christian principles within our class. But second thing is I'm teaching them self-defense, how to protect themselves, and then discipline, self-discipline in school, how to focus and things like that. Very good for the kids. But we needed those mats, and those mats cost money, and I didn't have that kind of money. So I went to the attorneys in the area, I went to the accountants in the area, I went into, and I went down the yellow pages. I said, okay, who do I know that is in the A's in the yellow pages, there's attorney. Who do I know that's an attorney? I wrote everybody down. I used this as what I called a memory jogger. Then I got to be in what boat salesman. I don't know, who do I know that sells boats or whatever. You see what I'm saying? Auto mechanics. Who is an A. So who do I know that's an auto mechanic? Write that down. So anybody that owns a corporation is good for this. Okay, corporate sponsors. It doesn't matter if they own a large corporation, Tyson Foods, or in this area Walmart or whatever. It doesn't matter if it's that, or if it's somebody that owns a lawn mowing business up the street that just mows a few yards every week for money. If they're incorporated, if they have a corporation, they can deduct an advertising expense. They can deduct that. So the first thing you want to do is you want to make your list and go down and do that. And then you want to make up your sponsorship levels. You want to get any stories or anything like that goes with it. And then you go in and you just tell them, this is what I'm doing. I'm raising funds for this, this, and this. Here's my budget. This is everything I'm raising the money for. Okay? If you're a Christian music artist, you might want to attach a press release on the front of it, or you might want to attach any other press you may have that's good with that. You may want to do a one sheet that might be a photo, up in the corner, have like some bullet points of some important things about the artist. Maybe your bio, any radio stats you might have, and that kind of thing. So, the one sheet, a press release, any press that you can, print off, the budget, and then the sponsorship levels, and then an envelope or something that, a call to action, a way that they can get the funds to you. You tell them how they can do that. So that is very, very important. That's the way that you raise funds. Again, this is the way that Meredith Kinley raised over $30,000 in a small town in North Carolina that has a very small population, that's in a small church that runs probably somewhere between 200 and 300, in their congregation. It's not a large church. It's not thousands of people in their church. So you would think it would be tough to raise $30,000 in just a few months. It wasn't. She had a health club on board. Here's some other things she did. She did they had a Zumbathon. Yeah, they had a Zumbathon. Everybody that went in paid a certain amount and to do this Zumbathon, to work out and everything, and they got to work out with Meredith Kinley. That was a big deal to them. You can have a parents' night out. Think of how missionaries raise funds, but think of how youth groups raise funds. Parents' night out, what you would do is, this is great for bands because you can get all the wives involved and everything else. The kids involved, everybody, that can. So what you do is basically you're just watching their kids for the parents on a Friday night or a Saturday night. This works great also. I know of one artist in Australia that did this very thing once a quarter. And, it could have easily have been done once a night too, but you pick out one Friday or Saturday night. Come work out with with Erskine. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, and then you can do a before and an after photo shoot with Erskine too, or something like that. That would be funny. All right, so parents' night out. Everybody brings their kids. There might be a person in the church that won't dare give you $1 for your ministry. But the minute you tell them, I'm going to watch your kids, and I'll watch them, and you pay me $20 per head or $25 a head. We'll watch them for 3 hours. You can go shop. You can go to the movie with your husband. You can go out to eat with your husband. And so they will gladly give you money for that. Well, that's a great way to, boom, childcare. That's right. So that's a great way to do that. You call it Parents' Night Out. It's an awesome way to do that. A Zumbathon, a yard sale. There might be a person that won't dare give you $1 toward your ministry, but they may have a garage full of junk. And you know what they say, one man's junk is another man's treasure. So what they may, what you can do is you can go around and collect these items from the people who tell them you'll haul it off for them. Take it all to the churchyard and have a church, have a block yard sale, sometime. Yeah. And that kind of how to make bubbles, I know of one girl in West Virginia, in a very small town, that made suckers for $1 a piece. $1 each. $1 each. The suckers were $1 a piece. She made them herself, and then she had a whole bunch of these suckers, and she went out, tapped the screen. Why am I tapping the screen? I don't want to tap the screen yet. All right, so she made a bunch of suckers. And so what she did is she went out to the child care the church had child care, and they had a school. So she went out and sold these suckers for $1 a piece to the parents of the kids and things like that. Told them it was to fund her ministry, fund what she was doing. And you would think, man, $1 a piece, that, what? She funded her entire 5-song EP for that. 5-song EP. We're talking, and that was at that time, you were looking at $1,800 per song for, I think it was 5 songs, and 5-song EP. Funded her entire thing with a bunch of suckers. I mean, that's crazy to think that, So it can be done, So yard sales, Zumbathons, Parents' Night Out. Just think of how missionary itinerants, how they go around and raise funds. Do it the same way, But corporate funding, if you want fast funding, corporate funding is the way to do it. Okay? So that's pretty much all I have for today. Next week, I'm going to go back and listen to the first one and listen to this one and try to check off everything that I've already talked about. And we're going to start getting in. I'm going to try to work into pillar 2, which is distribution. We're going to talk about physical distribution. We're going to talk about digital distribution. We're talk about the companies that provide that, and then other ways to bring it in through distribution, such as CCLI and things like that. We're going to talk a little bit about that and what that's for. So, anywho, that is my talk for the day. I am going to go upload this to YouTube, so if you missed out on anything, this will allow you to watch it later on YouTube. But I'm also going to upload it onto my blog, McLaughlinmusicgroup.com, McLaughlin musicgroup.com. Click on resources, and you'll see all the blogs. You'll see last week's topic where we started talking about product and merchandise and things like that. This week, very cool. This opens up a whole new perspective of how you can raise funds and cause everything to happen. I hope it excites you to think about how corporate funding can really help you in raising all the funds you need to support your ministry, to get your songs done and everything. Because it's so important that you don't get just so-so graphics. You got to have good quality graphics. You don't want just so-so photos. You got to have great quality photos. You don't want just so-so production. You got to have great quality production, mixing, mastering. Okay, those are things that you can't cut corners on. There are some things you can cut corners on, but those are not the things that you can cut corners on. Unless you are a professional yourself, that's the way to do it. That's the way, to handle that. I just got a text from someone, so they must not know I'm broadcasting right now. All right, so anyway, let's close with that. If you have questions, email me at McLaughlinMusicGroup@gmail.com, or you can go jeff@asidesradiopromotion.com, okay? Or, if you go to McLaughlinMusicGroup.com, you can just send me a note right off of my website. And if you click on resources, you can see all the previous blogs I've done. I've done some articles. There's one that talks about probably my most popular article that I've ever written is called How to Sing in Front of Thousands. And it's not what you think. You need to go check it out. How to Sing in Front of Thousands. And that particular article was published in several publications. Ended up being probably the most popular article that I've ever written. So there's others out there about, indie versus major label and things like that. And they were actually written, most of those were written 3-4 years ago, and then we republished them and put them on our most recent website, because it's a lot better quality. So anyway, go check those out. Next week we'll come back around, we'll finish up Pillar 1, we'll get into Pillar 2. Pillar 2 will go pretty quick, I hope, and then we'll jump into Pillar 3, which is marketing and promotion. That's a big one. We're going to talk a lot on marketing and promotion, and part of that too is going to be talking about PR, how to get free advertising, that kind of thing, okay? All right, hope y'all enjoyed it. Be sure and go and share this broadcast with others so they can come in and check it out. Watch for it at McLaughlinMusicGroup.com. Comment, that's another way that you can, comment questions. I'll try to answer the question on those as I can. And also, by the way, something that I got today that I'm really excited about. And no, I did not get it at Kohl's. It is not a Chewbacca mask. Okay? But I got a bracket for my phone. So look, Ma, no hands, so that's pretty cool. I like that. So from now on, I'll be able to talk and not be as distracted with holding my phone and trying to find things with the other hand. So now I've got both hands, I can rub my bald head. I can do all kinds of stuff with that. Woo! All right. Talk to you all next time. I'm going to try to come back on this time again next week. It would be cool if I just kind of made it the normal deal for me to come on at 7 o'clock Central Time, 8 o'clock Eastern Time every Tuesday. You could just kind of put it on your calendar and kind of expect it, and then unless I have something else going on and I have to move it to Thursday or something like that, I'll let you know. But I'm hoping to be able to do this broadcast again this time next week. All right? Talk to you then. Thank you all. See ya.